Jinxed is such a fun episode. Well, maybe not for Boomer. Being written and directed by David Min, this would be the first ever Tugs episode filmed, which is why the thumbnail has a 1 in the corner. While never intended to be the first actual episode of the show, I feel that Jinxed is such a fun episode. Its model work is ambitious, the character interactions are fun, and overall it's a great 2nd or 11th, if you watch it in airing order, episode. I love how Captain Star casually says, "What's up?" and how Sunshine calls Boomer's son. It just has silly little goofy moments that make me laugh. But Jinxed is an episode that really tests Sunshine and Tencent as characters. Every little thing that could go wrong does. I find Sunshine and Tencent's reactions to the events to be a fun contrast from each other. Sunshine starts off finding everything rather humorous. Tencent starts by denying a Jinx even exists and is rather annoyed at the idea. When Mighty Mo fails to lift Boomer, Sunshine is now upset, while Tencent finds the idea of a Jinx rather humorous. But after the crash, Tencent and Sunshine are on the same page, and Tencent no longer doubts the idea of Boomer being jinxed. Captain Star's patience is really pushed in this episode as well. He tries to get Boomer to do his jobs, but he keeps getting into expensive incidents. He tries handing him off to Zero, but he says no. When he sent Boomer to Lucky's yard to be repaired, he ended up causing more destruction than money for Captain Star. Then when he finally gives him the most simple job imaginable, where legit nothing could go wrong, lightning somehow strikes the ship next to him. Then we finally see him think outside the box by making Boomer a houseboat, which was really cool. But the most interesting character in the episode is Boomer. Boomer is rather suicidal, which isn't terribly unique for this show. Pretty much every character is suicidal at some point, but we see him actively celebrate it when he is going to die. Boomer wasn't even his original name, it was Captain Harry. He seems to enjoy his new name, so I guess I'll continue calling him Boomer. The worst part is, Boomer isn't even that wrong when it comes to him being harmful to everyone around him. That's the sad part. He practically begged Tencent and Sunshine to leave him, but they ended up taking him in. He's accepted the fact that he is just a JinxedTug, and everything he does will end in disaster. But what I love about Boomer is that he still tries. He tried to pull that barge off of explosives, and he tried to take that ship, but they both just ended up in disaster. He has the desire to be useful, but no matter what he does, or what he doesn't do, or how hard he tries, the Jinx is always coming back. It always affects him. When it gets to the theory that Tencent caused Boomer's Jinx, he's rightfully frustrated. But when Tencent doesn't use his hooter, and lightning strikes the ship anyway, it all just goes back to Boomer being the JinxedTug. Thankfully, he finally became a houseboat at the end, and the Jinx is pretty much gone. It's a rather simple episode in terms of a plot, and it's all fully character-focused, I would say. It's not something where we're necessarily trying to look at Captain Star and making money and everything. It's all characters. It's such a fun episode. It's a good Sunshine and Tencent's episode. It's great for introducing a new character, and it shows Captain Star as an authority figure. I mean, I love this episode, but I cannot lie, it is really strange. Tencent's hooter being the cause of Boomer's Jinx feels so out of nowhere. Like when we see the wreck marker, we hear Tencent's hooter and Boomer starts to sink, but it's so rushed and it doesn't really process that it was Tencent who tooted. Then he used it again when Mighty Mo was raising him out of the water. So when it gets to the crash scene with Mighty Mo and Tencent uses his hooter and the lights go out, since the first scene was weirdly established and the second scene didn't really process, it doesn't really feel like it was Tencent's fault. And when Sunshine talks about his theory, it just feels so weird and poorly established. Then other scenes like Captain Zero using Boomer, it goes by so quickly, and then they move past the crash scene rather fast too. We go from a crash scene back to another fast scene. It's just too fast, it's so weird. And OG and Big Mac kind of just feel there and like they were originally going to do more. It's rather strange, but it doesn't hold me back from really loving the episode and appreciating all it does. But I do have all these questions that I want answered. So, with these questions gathered, let's take a look at what they cut. We actually have the entire script, a picture book, and footage from the Tug sizzle reel for this episode. It is quite literally a gold mine of Tug's lost content. We know literally like every single thing that was supposed to happen in this episode, and this is just so much fun for me to just have the entire script and footage of this episode, thanks to the Tugs project, of course. But before we talk about any of the cut content, let's take a moment for this unused boat that was on the set of Jinxed. No idea why it was there, but it's important to acknowledge its use. Also, look at the Fire Tugs prototype face in this scene, it's so weird and silly. Alright, looking at the original title. While the picture book is titled The Unlucky Tug, the original title was actually JinxedTug, which was shortened to Jinx. Jinx as a title feels cooler to me, so I'm glad they did that. Ignoring some small dialogue changes in slightly extended scenes, our first major change is Tencent saying, "We found him drifting out near Lily," which is a nice bit of continuity. Boomer's engine didn't start the first time originally, but the actual interesting first change is how Captain Star wanted them to bring Boomer to Lucky's yard to tell Captain Star what he was worth. But what's even crazier is that Captain Star warns them about Lucky, saying there's something strange about that one. After that scene, right before Boomer starts to sink, originally it was supposed to be an extended scene. As seen in the picture book in this behind the scenes photo, we most likely would have seen Sunshine and Tencent's haul Boomer. Then Tencent would sound his hooter, and Sunshine would alert Tencent. Then we would get back to the final cut where Tencent says, "I think Boomer is taking on water." Thanks to the sizzle reel and script, instead of Sunshine asking, "What's so funny?" it was Tencent who asked that. And in the scene from the sizzle reel, we get to see the original shots. After Boomer says, "I'm sinking, just what I wanted," Sunshine is the one that says, "What?" which is a shot that is also from the sizzle reel. Since we don't have the full footage of this scene, it's rather short for a reconstruction, but if we were to put these scenes together, here's kind of an idea of what it would look like.
Here, I think Boomer's taking on water.
Hey, Boomer, what's so funny? I'm sinking, just what I wanted.
What? Look, we're gonna make it to Lucky's even if I sink with you.
I'm kind of glad that they swapped the lines. Seeing Tencent go around and then cutting to Tencent be right next to Boomer, then back to Sunshine, then back to Tencent is kind of weird to watch. Overall, I think it was a better editing choice. After that scene, we had an alternative opening shot where Mighty Mo was introduced. Instead of a close-up of Mighty Mo, we get an establishing shot that shows Big Mac, and thanks to the picture book, we know that Warrior was supposed to be there too. Also in the sizzle reel, you can just barely see Warrior right there. With some bad color correcting I did, you can make him out a little bit more here. What's weird is that Warrior and Big Mac do absolutely nothing here, and they are just there to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't get this shot because it was weird for Warrior and Big Mac to be there, and then to have Big Mac show up way later on. Like, they say nothing and they do nothing, it's just weird. A cut narration line from Captain Star would have him talk about Tencent and Sunshine readying themselves. After Sunshine reassures Boomer, Mighty Mo would tell Tencent to hold the barge steady, and then Tencent would say, "Steady she is!" then toot, and that's what caused Mighty Mo to jam, which makes way more sense than in the 15-minute cut where he just does a couple toots, and then Mighty Mo breaks. There's also more of an emphasis on Sunshine moving the lot to Lucky's yard, and Captain Star would even talk about how important Sunshine felt, which is some really nice character building for him since he is still the new one to the team. That's so fun. Alright, now we're on to our first completely cut scene. We have Sunshine and Tencent haul Boomer to Lucky's yard, and Tencent would check in on Sunshine, with this clip of Tencent actually being the show's intro. Then Zip and Zug would pass by them. Zug would say, "Christmas came early this year," while Zip would just add, "Just what Captain Star needed, another dud tug." Again with Zip's mean side getting cut, why do they always do this? Sadly for Zug, we only have a picture of him for this scene, but thanks to the sizzle reel, we do at least get to see Zip. After this, everything plays out the same, but instead of the crash scene fading to Captain Zero's task for Boomer, it shows the extent of the damage in the morning at Lucky's yard. It even talks about how nobody laughed due to how serious the situation was. OJ and Big Mac had to get Top Hat and Warrior to help clean up the wreckage, which means that the Z stacks got an entire day's work. But even they didn't say anything about it because they knew how serious the crash was. You can even see parts of the Z stacks in the picture here. This crash scene was really important originally, and now knowing how important this was, it's so weird going back to the 15-minute cut where they just cut to the next scene. It was so dramatic and such a big sacrifice of time for Captain Star. No wonder Captain Star seems so mad at Boomer, he caused so much damage. After that scene, we would then get a briefing scene with Captain Star. We actually get to see part of this shot in the show's intro. He informs the Tugs that Boomer has been lent to Captain Zero, and they're all relieved. Captain Star also informs them that the reason Boomer sank is that his stopcocks were left wide open, and there was nothing wrong with his engine. In fact, the engine is so good that Captain Zero even might buy Boomer from Captain Star, which earned 10 cents and Sunshine a bonus. That comment gives me a lot of questions, but just like Thomas, there's some things you just don't question. 10 cents thinks and tells Sunshine, if Boomer is right, we just won't see that bonus, Sunshine. After that job for Boomer goes poorly, we get an entire scene where we have 0 images or footage of it. Captain Star would pass Boomer off to the Ironworks. Boomer would work with Big Mickey. The first day ended up going great. So the next day, 10 cents and Sunshine were coasting, admiring Boomer. And just as Boomer is bringing another barge into the pier to be loaded, 10 cents tooted at him, and Big Mickey's engine stalled, and the load of steel he was lifting jolted, and the entire load fell onto the barge, damaging it so much that it sunk. What's cool is that Big Mickey stood up for Boomer. He told the Ironworks that 10 cents' hooter caused the incident, but they wouldn't believe him. So Boomer was returned to Captain Star. Which leads us to our next deleted scene. Yeah, 2 deleted scenes back to back. Captain Star would lend Boomer to the Banana Shipping Company. Boomer's doing fine and Sunshine and 10 cents are nearby. Then 10 cents would sound off his hooter, and probably the most famous cutscene of Tugs plays out. It's the Gomez incident! It was the first explosion ever filmed for the series too. Thanks to the scissor reel, we actually get to have this scene. Boomer's engine stalled, which hit Izzy Gomez into this explosive, and Sunshine and 10 cents can only watch in horror. So once again, Boomer was returned to Captain Star, poor guy. We then get the scene of Sunshine telling 10 cents about him jinxing Boomer. Then we get another extended scene! 10 cents and Sunshine come up to Boomer and Boomer says, "Oh, it's you two again." I mean, fair enough, he's had nothing but problems when they show up. Sunshine noticed the foghorn on him, and apparently the reason Boomer had it is because Captain Star made him a standby foghorn. The scene would then play out like it is in the 15-minute cut. Boomer would later get relieved of his duties, and funny enough, there was no fog, but the moment Captain Star removed him from that duty, a bunch of fog came in. That's so ironic, I love that. Then before the fire tug halted Boomer, 10 cents, Sunshine, OJ, and Big Mac hear from the fire launch that some dumb tug set a sailing skull alight. Big Mac would say that can only be Boomer. Then 10 cents and Sunshine would try to go look for him before OJ and Big Mac would stop them because they have work to do. Then we would get to see the fire launch hauling in Boomer, and it'll play out just like in the 15-minute cut. Then the episode just ends like it is in the 15-minute cut. They go find Boomer is a houseboat now, and the Jinx is over. Okay, let's take a minute to reflect on these deleted scenes, because there's quite a lot of them here. Jinx is by far one of the most interesting episodes in terms of cut content. We have an entire crash that would have given us a serious scene along with 2 cut jobs Boomer ended up causing accidents with. But did these cut scenes solve my issues with the episode? Absolutely yes. It makes way more sense that 10 cents was the cause of Boomer's jinx, and they actually gave us time to figure that out before Sunshine told 10 cents. Also, while really not doing much, OJ and Big Mac are actually feeling relevant to the plot instead of just being weirdly placed in there. Now Warrior, I have no idea what he was doing there, it makes absolutely no sense. Overall, these deleted scenes make me enjoy the episode way more. But if you're like me, you might be wondering how much of the sizzle reels footage can help extend the 15-minute cut of the episode. Well, I got an answer for you actually. I decided to make my own version of the extended cut, where I took a little bit of a liberty to get to the Banana Shipping Company scene, but with that scene and all the cut footage, we have 1 extra minute for this episode, which is a great extension and honestly helps understand the cause of Boomer's jinx with 10 cents' hooter way more than the final episode. So yeah, we got a 16-minute cut of Jinxed. How fun. You know, another thing about this episode that I absolutely love is how Boomer's story is so nicely wrapped up. He's no longer a tug, and it's just a houseboat. Wait, what do you mean he shows up in Upriver? What are you talking about? Am I reading this right? What? What? Okay, so in Upriver, the second to last episode filmed, Boomer just shows up for no reason. We can't say it's a flashback because it's clearly winter, which wouldn't line up with the weather at all in the previous episode. So, maybe this is the old man from Pirate? I mean, they share the same model, so surely... Nope! He has Boomer's hats, so that can't be the old man. Okay, I'm sure this isn't canon. I'm sure this isn't meant to be Boomer. It was probably supposed to be another unnamed Tug, right? Like, that looks like Boomer. Maybe even taking his old hat since he got a new one at the end of Jinxed or something. But that doesn't make any sense either. Why is there another Tug that looks identical to Boomer? Why do you take Boomer's hat? Why is this at the end of the series? This just doesn't make sense and hurts the timeline. It hurts my soul. Did the filming crew just use Boomer again? I mean, I don't know, but I hate the idea of Boomer just having to go back to be a working Tug instead of a houseboat. And I'm sure David Min didn't intend for this to ever happen to Boomer either. Why did they do this? Why? Why do they hate Boomer? Why do they hate happy endings? Why is he still... He's gonna be Jinxed again, right? Or can he work normally? Is the Jinx gone? Did he just become a houseboat temporarily? What happened to that guy who was using him as a houseboat? Does he have a home anymore? Did he take him on the go? Why does he get his old hat back? I'm so confused. Well, that was all of Jinxed in Boomer's strange appearance in Upriver. For being the first episode filmed, it's a rather good one. Thanks to the Tugs project and the History of Tugs Google Doc for the cut content part of this video, by the way. Please go check those out. Links are in the description. Anyway, go check out my video on High Winds. It came out like a while ago, and I hope you enjoy it. See ya!